All right, we are on the Vaers hhs.gov database website here. So here's where you can download the vaccine adverse event reporting system data. And we're going to go ahead and download a 2021 file. It's December 11, 2021. And the last time I did this was in November, and we'll see if in 30 days they have updated their data, which I doubt it. Hasn't exactly been 30 days, but we're going to give it a shot. So let's go ahead and download this real quick and see what is in there once we start the analysis here in just a minute. Be right back. All right, now we have our data. Let's go take a look at it. So this is going to be a zip file, and what I'm going to use is use Windows Explorer to open this file up. Let's go take a look. There it is. There's our file. All right, so these are our 3 files. We want to extract them all. Extraction almost complete. Extraction complete. Let's rename this file to December for my purposes because I've run several files of this. All right, so now we have our data. Get off the website. And let's take a look. So you have 3 files whenever you download this. You have a Vaers Vax data, symptoms data, and then like a data file. So we're gonna open them all and work them individually, because what we need to do is concatenate all the symptoms together off this file and then VLOOK that into the Vaers data file, and then we need to then VLOOK this Vax data into the Vaers data file. So we'll have 2 or 3 sets of VLOOKUPs with concatenation formulas in there. Not the end of the world, but these are rather large files, so you've got to have a little bit of horsepower to get this done efficiently. I'm going to use Excel because that is the way this data is presented to us. And it's a shame that Vaers does not report their data all in one sheet with pivots and slicers available, because then it would make this type of analysis and fact checking a lot more easier for the layman. And by layman, I'm including myself because I'm not a medical professional. However, I am a data analyst professional. And most of the general public themselves are not professionals and or data analyst professionals. And so it becomes problematic when trying to tell people, just go look at the data yourself, because they don't know what to do with this, right? Like for example, in this file, all we have is a Vaers ID data, which is like the identification of the case, right? So someone had an adverse event, and so they're just going to report that anonymously under HIPAA as a case number. And so that's what we're looking at here, is like a case number situation. And right now what we're going to do is we're going to insert a column in here. Is I want to take column C, E, G, and I together with K, and I want to add those all into one specific. So now we're just going to concatenate this data together. We're going to go concat C1, comma, this is going to give us the comma that we need, E1, comma, G1, comma, we said I intended to K, right? H1, oh, I, the I1. Then K1. All right, let's see what this gets us. The formula should give us the files we wanted there. Yeah, there we go. We got all the symptoms together now. Great. Using this concatenate formula, we've been able to combine all of the symptoms into one file. So these two to one cell. So these 2 cells are what we're going to VLOOK into our data our Vaers data file. So next I want to come in here. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take and do a Vlookup. Do I want that case number, if it exists, on the symptom file that's been concatenated? Okay, so now we have all of our symptoms. We call that V1. And now what I want to do next is I want to concatenate some of these symptoms in this K column on the data file. B2 by K2, but I need to put that little comma thing in there so it's clean. Now we got it. All right, so now we have a full-on concatenation of all the symptoms between both files. So we'll call this V2. Let's get rid of the formula. So now it's just data. All right, next what I want to do is Vlookup into this file by Vaers ID number, this vaccine data. So this is 2021 Vaers Vax file, and we're going to add, I think it was 6 columns. We're going to add the vaccine type, lot number, vaccine route, and vaccine name. So that is how many? 7 columns. I added 7 columns here. Great. So Vlookup this ID number by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's so much in here though, really. There's so much good stuff in here. It's actually this one. I need 8. All right, so we'll add another column in there. So let's get to going. Let's try that one more time. So we're going to do a Vlookup based off of this vaccine ID number, this case ID, into here, and we're going to grab up to 8 columns. But for this Vlookup, we only need number 2 right now. Got it. Nice. Let's add one more column because I think I wanted 8 levels of data there. We're going to copy this formula. So that was 2. Let's do 3. Let's do 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. And 9. I don't think I did 9. Alright, so that 9 doesn't exist. Great. So we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that corresponds to, count them, 8. So we're going to bring in all these datas. Let's go ahead and copy that stuff right here, and we're going to drop that right there. Boom. Now this is going to crash my computer most likely, but let me save this data. Yeah, when you're dealing with something that has like 800,000 lines, it gets a little crazy. All right, now that we've saved our progress, we're going to go ahead and drop this formula all the way down. We just finished our Vlookup off the Vaers Vax file. Let's go ahead and close that. And now we have the Vaers data file only. I closed all those other files so that we could optimize our system resources to handle this, because it's a monstrous file. And we got a lot going on in here. And so let's just take a really quick, big look at this file. As it's processing the cores right now, we have the ID, which is a case ID. We have a set of symptoms in there, and then all these Vlookups that I pulled. So we Vlooked up V1, column B, column C from the symptoms file, and then we looked up into this D through, I guess, J from the other file, right? So we have Vlooked up, I'm assuming, 10 columns into this file. Great. So the next thing I want to do to make this work a little bit better is to get rid of all the formulas. So we're just going to drop, paste, copy, no formula. So this is just going to be data. Got it. All right, now we're good. Let's save this one more time just so we don't crash. Now we're ready to start actually doing some pivot tables, and we'll make some charts. So one of the things I want you to see real quickly is this case ID number. Here are the symptoms associated with it. What was the vaccine type? And what was the manufacturer? And was there a lot number? So that's what we're looking at right now. Okay, so now we have our file and we're ready to go. Let's go ahead and make a pivot table and a subsequent pivot chart. One of the things I want to show you right off the bat using this Vaers data with this pivot table is going to be vaccine type frequency. So vaccine type and the number of Vaers IDs. Right? Now let's, Vaers IDs, we need a count. We're just doing a count. So let's create a chart, or even like just like a pie chart. So using this data, a majority of these cases, of the 710,000 reported Vaers IDs, vaccine adverse events reported in 2021, and December 11th right now, look how many more of those are COVID. So all year long, they're all COVID. Let's change that chart to make it something a little bit, a different perspective to look at. Here's the bar. I need to get rid of the total, I believe. Yeah, so let's just expand this out. See this? In 2021, a majority of the adverse events reported, 610,000 according to this file, as of December 11th, was that 710,584, right? %94 of the adverse events reported in 2021 as of December 11th are COVID vaccine. Great. We knew that. In fact, it's probably more. All right, let's take this another step forward. So we have the COVID vaccine now as a filter. We're going to filter, and we're going to add the manufacturer. So now we're going to say, just give me the ones for COVID. Okay, so here's your manufacturers, right? And there, for COVID vaccine only, the manufacturers, 47% of the adverse events are Moderna and 44% are Pfizer, with 9% being Johnson & Johnson. Interesting. Now let's take this a step further. Let's add what I call the V2. V2, and to my computer, but let's just get through this. V2, as you remember, in the Vaers data tab, are the concatenations of the symptoms from the Vaers symptoms file, and then that was V1. Looked up into that after I concatenated Vaers symptoms, that's V1, and looked up into that file, the Vaers data file. And then I further concatenated V2. V2 is the symptoms from the symptoms file plus the symptoms from the Vaers data file. So we'll have a large search range available for us in order to identify okay, so this is going to be monstrous. What we need to do is yeah, it's completely just frozen my hard drive over here. Yeah, it's completely just like nuked. Just for shits and giggles, look how much CPU this process is taking, and it's on the verge of crashing, quite honestly. This is a fairly decent computer. Maybe I need to close Opera. All right. Oh my God. He's still thinking. Big time. Finally, came back to life. All right, so now we have in our pivot table here, manufacturer, vaccine type COVID only, and then all the concatenated things. So let's type in Myo. These are all of the cases across the manufacturers that had Myo. Acute myocardial infarction, which is a heart attack, abdominal pain, acute kidney injury, myocardial infarction, acute coronary syndrome, electrocardiogram abnormal, troponin, adverse event blood tests. That's just for back pain, chest pain, echocardiogram. Patient developed flu-like symptoms the following day, including headache. 24 hours later. And I just used the search word Myo, right? Vaccination site pain, cardiac stress, elevated troponin dizziness, 70 years old white female subject. Tingling, spontaneous report from 55-year-old male patient. Paresthesia, myocarditis. SARS-CoV-2 test, myocarditis. Myocarditis, this is a spontaneous report from a contactable nurse, 19-year-old male patient received BN2 Pfizer BioNTech vaccine, COVID vaccine via unspecified route. Myocarditis. A lot. 6,393 had myocarditis, just as a searchable term. Let's just type in the word heart. Let's see what that gives us. Let's see how much that changed it. Up to 40,000 now contain the word heart. We got palpitations, loss of consciousness, lymphadenopathy, malaise, magnetic resonance MRIs, migraines, muscle tightness. There's just a lot. Look at all this. Myocardial infarction, nausea. No adverse event. He is disabled and has congenital heart failure. Okay. Pain in extremities. Painful extremity in the armpit. This is a spontaneous report received by a contactable consumer. The patient, 68 years old. Male patient received first dose, BioNTech. Okay, that's heart. Let's talk about stroke. Bell's palsy, decreased appetite, angiogram, bacterial vaginosis, whoa, thromboplasty, angiogram, cerebral abnormal, cerebral normal, aphasia, facial paralysis, internal normalized ratio increased, neurological examination normal within a few minutes, after receiving vaccine. He had a brief visual disturbance. 6,000 cases involve the word stroke. Let's try abortion. We're just doing a symptom search in this. So 1,200 lines have the word abortion. Great. Now I want to go and look at some actual like metadata comparisons here, like the age, the sex, that kind of stuff. So we're going to just start a new sheet here. We're going to do like I showed you a moment ago, and we're just going to filter by vaccine type of COVID only. In fact, what I really should do is over here do that, because that would make the data set run a lot better. So if we just do COVID only, we're going to filter for COVID and vax type column D. Now we have COVID only data. Let's create a subset of that data. It should be 600,000 lines, and this should perform a lot better. I mean, not by much, but some. Yeah, we have 670,000 lines of this, so we're going to create a new pivot table. And I just want to do, let's do some quick comparisons. These are just like little factoids. So whenever you talk to your friends, you can just kind of say, of the 670,000 Vaers reports as of December 11, 2011, we're going to look at sex and manufacturer. All right, we're going to do a count of the Vaers IDs, and all right, there's your figures right there. So 452,000 of those 671,000 cases are female. 195 are male. 195,000 of the 671 are male. Here's where the rubber meets the road. 216,000 were Moderna. 200,000 females were Pfizer. That's a good stat right there. That's a good thing to know. Now let's talk about sex, and let's do ages. Now this is going to get a little crazy, but let's just see what happens here. Make sure we've got a classic pivot table here, and we're going to get rid of our subtotal. Remove our subtotals. So look at the age in years. Are these fetuses? Are these adverse events for fetuses? Or is this just bad data? You know, you could reasonably suggest that 144 of those cases were for the age group, according to their own data, below a year old. So not a fetus, maybe just someone who's not a year old. Up to, so let's just, you know, it'd be interesting to see what those datas are, what adverse events are being reported for someone up to 2 years old. In fact, let's just think about that, right? Let's just think about that logically. Let's just capture the data for everyone, value filters less than 5 years old. Here's all the data for everyone under 5 years old. Let's look at the grand total, and let's just see what those data sets are, what that is. So now we have everyone under 5 years old who has a reported Vaers event, which I think isn't like a thing, right? Like they shouldn't be vaccinating children below 5 years old at this point. I could be wrong, but I think as of December 11, 2021, that's not a thing. So we're going to call this below 5 years. These are all the reports below 5 years. And it would be interesting to then pivot this data again, but let's just look at the event, the symptoms here. Blood glucose, headache, dizziness, very hungry, body aches, organs feels like they have been sitting out in the desert, even though this makes no sense. So this tells me that that is bad data. This below 5 years bullshit. Someone just probably keyed that in incorrectly is what I think that means, right? But let's look at just the let's drop the sex. Let's have age, and we'll do manufacturer like this. Boom. All right. So now we have Is that a subset of the data? I think it is actually. ISO filter, let's clear the filters, there we go. And let's sort that zeta. All right, so these are every one. And so this many cases had a blank age, right? Is that correct? 665,000? Yeah, 65,000 of these reports did not have an age listed. That's interesting. Why would that be? Is it because they're children? 119 years old, someone who's 119 years old. So just for people over 100 years old, as reported by the data here, there were a total of 209 cases. People let's go 75 to 90. 75 to 90, right? Well, to 99, I guess 100. 75 to 90, 58,000 adverse events reported for people 75 to 100 years old. So let's do 75 to 50. 248,000. Wow. Let's go 50 to 40. 99,000. Let's do 40 to 30. 109,000. Let's do 30 to 20. 73,000. 20 to 10-year-old to 11-year-olds, 33,000. So the majority of the weight, I believe, was the 100-year-olds to, was it 75-year-olds? No, it was the 75 to 50-year-olds. That's what it was. 75 to 50-year-olds had the most cases, the most adverse events. 250,000 of those 671,000 were that age. Now we can just kind of quickly look in here. Remember, so Janssen is column B, C is Moderna, and D is Pfizer. Just kind of get a feel for this data here as we cruise through the age groups. Who has the most mentally? Just kind of mentally make a comparison. Moderna's in the middle here with C. We're actually going to lock this. Yeah, Moderna apparently has the most cases throughout most of the age groups of care, apparently through the data here as we just look through it. Gets a little neck and neck below 60 years old. Neck and neck between Pfizer and Moderna. A little bit, now we can see a little bit more of a gap now below the age here. So Pfizer has been approved for children, right? 5 to 11, I believe it is. And so, yes, we would expect to see more of these 5-year-olds having Pfizer-related adverse events reported. And then, of course, there shouldn't be any children 5 and below who have these. However, they're, according to their own data, 155 adverse events for children 5 to 0 years old for Pfizer and 81 for Moderna. Very interesting. But look at this figure right here. 264 5-year-olds have had adverse events reported. Let's just take a look at that. So just the Pfizer 5-year-olds. What kind of adverse events are these children having? UTIs, vomiting, rash, incorrect dose administered, blood glucose normal, endocardium, pain in extremity, syncope, ultrasound scan normal, headache, pyrexia, peripheral swelling. So one of the things I want to do is I do want to repivot this data. So let's create a pivot data for this data that is just for 5-year-olds in Pfizer. And let's look at the lot numbers and the amount of IDs. So now we're looking at 5-year-olds who reported adverse events and what the lot numbers being reported. So real quickly, we can just see that this lot number, FK5127, lot number is the one that has the most cases reported. So let's look at that, FK5127. And what states were that reported in the most? We're going to repivot this data again and just see where that lot number went. State. Come on now, where's state at? Does state disappear? So 13 of those were in Maryland, and that lot number, 11 of those were in California. 6 of those were in Texas for that lot number. That's really very bad. That's very scary. So I think the actual set of data that I was hanging out with a moment ago, this is just COVID. So let's create another pivot table, going back to the data. So we're abandoning all that we just discussed about. So what I want to do is, I think we did sex already, right? Yeah, we said that a huge majority of those were females. What I wanted to see is died. So let's do sex and like how many count died. And that's just a column on this sheet, right? Let me show you what I'm talking about. Right over here, disabled, date died, or died, right? So 4,900 of those cases actually have a value in that column, because remember, not all of them do, right? It's blank yes or no, I imagine. Let's just test that idea. So in died, there's yes or blank, yes or blank. So they actually put yes in that column. What is this? Onset date, vax date, onset date, number of days. Look at that. It'd be interesting to see that data as well. So let's take a look at that pivot. Let's make that pivot. So vax date, let's do number of days, get rid of died. Let's do IDs, count of IDs. By did, what was the report date, died, or symptom, report date. What was that data as? Num days, where's num days? Num days. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so of these adverse events reported, of the 671,000 total adverse events for COVID vaccine only across all 3 manufacturers, but like 44,000 days since the vaccine was administered. Come on, man. That's bad, stupid ass data right there. That's stupid ass data. Look at all that. That's garbage. It hasn't even been 44,000 days. I mean, like, how many years is that, right? Like, let's just Google that, right? 44,000 days divided by 365 days in a year. That's 120 years. Come on, man. That just goes to show you how shitty and stupid their data is. Num days. Yeah, look, here we are. Let's go to the end of num days. Look at that. See? I didn't make that up. It says 44,000 days. That's stupid. And here's allergies. Take a look at that. Dust mite, Zoloft, Wellbutrin, azithromycin, shellfish, amoxicillin. Did I say Percocet? What I was hoping to catch here would be like how soon were the adverse events reported, and it looks like within 0 days. You know, within 24 hours, I would say 259,000 of these adverse events are reported within 24 hours of administration of the shots. 1 day later, you know, within over 24 hours, 116,000 of those, right? And so when you just do the math of, was it 670? Just do the 38%, 39% of the total adverse events were within 24 hours, right? Then this figure ends up being, what is that, 1/5? So yeah, 14% or 17%. So within 48 hours, it looks like 56% of the people actually had their symptoms right there. 56% within 48 hours, right? Or even better, right? Like, and we're just ballparking this, okay? We're literally just ballparking this. There's no reason to get mad. We're just calculating numbers together. 60% of all cases are within 2 days. So your chances of having an adverse event based on their own data, you are 60% likely to have an adverse event within 48 hours ish. And so I would want to then like maybe look at what are those adverse events most likely to be. Yeah, 480,000. So we'll call this tab less than 48 hours. So within 48 hours, chest discomfort, dizziness, fatigue, expired product administered, wow. Blood pressure decreased, chest pain, chills, confusion state, decreased appetite. These are all Modernas, right? Let's do that. So within 48 hours, what manufacturer? Yes, it's okay. So within 48 hours, 119,000 of those reported cases of the total 480 were Pfizer, 184,000 Moderna. Interesting. Chills, dizziness, muscle spasm, bird sensation, chills, blood pressure, fatigue. How many of these people died? Let's look at, so within 48 hours, okay, so we can put died and then sort by yes. All right. Within 48 hours of taking this, 2,000 people died, according to their own data. Let's get rid of the manufacturer. Well, we know that these are all within a day, right? So we'll call that as a filter. Manufacturer here, and let's look at the sex of that. Where the hell's sex? My sex go away? There it is. Within 48 hours, 283,000, so more than half of the adverse events reported within 48 hours were women, and a quarter of them male. Let's go to yes, died. 1,000 of those within 48 hours that were reported were women, 1,007, and 1,200 were male. So this is what data analytics looks like. This is why it's important to analyze data, because having data like this that's referenceable directly to their Vaers hhs.gov website is powerful, because you're going to talk to people on the street and you're going to be like, oh, you know, you're more likely to die if you don't have a vaccine than if you did, or most of the people who had adverse, you know, or whatever, right? And it's like you say, well, I think people who have vaccines, who got vaccines, had events. This is that data. So across the vendors, male and female, died yes. 4,001 of those people were marked as dead. 4,901, and 3,700 female. Right, so 4,901 were male, 3,700 were female, 3,800 were female that died. And this is all days. This is, you know, all the way to 44,000 days, right? Whatever. Let's put up here age. And remember, we were going to do something like, man, it won't let me do the filter there. I want to see in children which ones are getting hurt the most. So we'll do age years here, and I think we'll do a sort. We'll do under 11 years old. less than, yeah, 5 to 11 was the thing, right? So is less than 11. No, that's not right. I did that wrong. Right here. I need to put the filter there. Value filter is less than 11 years old. Boom. No, it didn't work. It's my cat purring. You hear him purring over here? It's purring up a storm. Oh, okay, that's right, because this is died. Okay, so pupil 5 to 11. No, that's not right, is it? No, it's not. This is the IDs. I gotta get rid of the IDs. Let's just reformulate this because I think I screwed up the data. All right, so here we are with the new data set that I wanted to look at. I wanted to do age in years, probably here. We're going to do number of IDs, count of IDs. So let's do value filters less than 11 years old. Oh shit. We're just going to do this manually. So less than 11 years old, 11 and below, 3,551 cases reported. And remember, 65,000 cases did not have an age associated with that. Let's actually look at that. What are those? No age cases, right? Tuberculosis, burning sensation, chest pain, anaphylactic reaction, acute kidney injury, biopsy kidney, blood creatinine, expired product administered vaccine site, induration, vaccine site pain, vaccine site swelling, site warmth, accidental overdose, feeling cold. Yeah, these 65,000 do not have age, and I'm just curious about that. Like, what about Myo? Yeah, so there's 65,000 lines, and 306 of them have Myo as a searchable term. What about just heart? Ooh. 982 of them have heart as a searchable term. Interesting. Interesting. So let's clear all the filters real quick on this, because I think I have an idea here that the items that don't have an age, remember these are non-aged. Where's age? Yeah, age in years, they don't have an age listed. Delete that, there we go. Yeah, these don't have age. Yeah, okay, these don't have an age. Let's pivot that data real quick. Let's pivot this, let's repivot this. So no age pivot, and we're gonna say, what manufacturer? Right? Because I have a feeling, well, they're neck and neck, Pfizer and BioNTech. See, my thoughts were there was if it doesn't have an age, then chances are it's a child, right? That's kind of what I was thinking.